Hello, 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 hello. Sup? Undo. Tre and quoi? Huh? Honestly, I think the audio balance is pretty solid. I think the audio balance is pretty darn solid on this thing. I'm listening to myself say this, like, hearing these things I'm saying after I've said them. I'm such a fucking dork. But salutations, friends. My name is Brianna Sukiyama Bond, otherwise known as No Ordinary Scholar, and Q1 reading wrap up. It's honestly, I'm doing so well with reading. If I look at, because last year I read about 30 books. This year, I've read like half of that. The year's just starting. I do think it is partially, I only got back into reading in like 2020. And so that's a muscle that we have to rework, train to get back to them reading a book in a day speeds of yore. But so it's definitely partial. I'm at 21 books so far. This is like including things that I've read in the past month and a half. That's not included in this wrap up. That'll be included in the Q2 wrap up. But yeah, so it's definitely a matter of all of the like high powered reading from back in the day. I've fallen out of that. I fell out of reading in high school because there was just so much going on. I was also severely depressed. But so like that, gotta get back into that, as well as I've definitely read way more short stories than I read in really any of the past years. I don't know, I just never picked them up for the most part. And if anything, I would pick up like an anthology or something, and then I wouldn't. Like, let's be honest, it's like 2 anthologies that I've read. I've read like 2 anthologies since getting back into reading and doing this reading channel and doing all these reading streams on my dorky channel. And even like an anthology, I wouldn't consider like all the short stories different stories because they're in an anthology. But you know, so far I've read a lot. I've read a lot. Some of this is counting the fact that I've like blended read some books, and so I counted both the audiobook and the ebook because that just makes more sense to me. Like in my head, it's the same way I would count if I'm reading a book in English and in Spanish. I would count both versions of the book. But that just makes more sense to me. So I'm currently at like 21 books, and it's been good. It feels great. We've got a lot to cover though in this wrap up, and we'll have even more to cover in the next one. It keeps going, and we love that for me. I am currently also like drowning under arc books. Next year we will have maybe 5 arcs. I am stressing over these goddamn arcs. We're going to severely cut that. We are going to put myself on a goddamn limit with arcs. But oh my god, so that's also a big portion of why I have so many books and I feel like I am pushing my reading so much, is because I requested a bunch of arcs that I didn't think I was going to get, and then they gave them all to me at the same time, and we're just a tish stressed for like, I think for the most part, most of my arcs are done by August. I think I have 1, maybe 2 for September. August as a month. I'm taking that off just to read in Spanish, but so I won't be reading any arcs then, because I didn't get the Spanish arc that I wanted. But then I'll go ahead. But after we cover August, then I think I have 1, maybe 2 arcs in September. And then no more. That's it for the year. I am so stressed. But let's go ahead and actually hop into the covering and talking about the books that I read in the first quarter. Also, I just like to say I switched to Canva for this goddamn presentation thing. The like past ones that I'd done, I did on Miro, which is a completely different app, right? I did it on Miro, and oh my god, I can't express to you how much worse Canva is. It's so unintuitive. It's so uncomfortable. And like from the jump, one of the main things that is significantly different is with Miro, you can set like, oh, I'm going to pick out this section and that's going to be like a thing I can quickly jump to. It's going to be basically a slide and it'll do like a little sliding, it'll like zoom over to that place for me when I hit on, like, go to the next slide, it'll zoom over to that section, go to the next slide, it'll zoom over to this section. This doesn't have that. I have to physically zoom, and what's irritating is I have a nice mouse. I have 2 scroll wheels on this mouse. These can go up and down, and left and right. I have to hit on this, God, hit on this fucking button, zoom in manually, and then scroll over to the section. I actually do want to start with the nonfiction. It's a small section. I have to scroll manually. It's like, I'm so tempted to genuinely pay $10 a month for Miro, because this is absolutely hell. You're supposed to, with the free version, you're supposed to be able to get like 1 or 2 fucking boards that you can manage for free, like that you can use and interact with for free. But no, it's making all of my boards locked, which is annoying. I'm gonna figure that out. If I can figure that out and make them not view only, then that's gonna be fantastic, because this is horrific. This makes me want to pay $10 a month for this app that I would only be using for my reading streams, because what's going on here is terrible. And I don't want to use Prezi because I can't use Prezi. I can't like work on putting the stuff together in Prezi on like my tablet, so I can and do that on mobile and while I'm out. But wrap up books. Let's talk about books. The nonfiction, I read 1 nonfiction in the first quarter, and it was Nothing Is Okay by Rachel Wiley. This actually might have been like the first book that I read in the year, and it was, I loved it. I was absolutely obsessed with it. I like started taking notes on it because I started taking notes on it because I switched to a new note-taking app, and so I wanted to see what taking book notes on it would be like. Yeah, this book was funny. It was... Can I help you? This book was funny. It's a poetry and prose collection. Let me read the description. Nothing Is Okay is the second full-length poetry collection by Rachel Wiley, whose work simultaneously deconstructs the lies that we're taught about our bodies and our beings, and builds new ways of viewing ourselves. As she delves into queerness, feminism, fatness, dating, and race, Wiley molds these topics into a punching critique of culture and a celebration of a self. A fat-positive activist, Wiley's work soars and challenges the bounds of bodies and hearts and the ways we carry them. Yeah, I thought I thought I'd read, like, with my fucking, what is his name, like, Neil Silverman from elementary school, thought that I was into poetry. No, this was fantastic, and I, like, feel like I know nothing about poetry, which I don't. I simply don't know anything about poetry, I guess. And now so I'm now definitely wanting to read, I have several other works by Rachel Wiley on my TBR now, as well as I guess I'll probably like search around and like branch out of see if I can other writers like Rachel Wiley or something like that to try and branch out and find more poetry and prose that I can really get into, because yeah, absolutely fantastic. Blown away. Next, I had several DNFs, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna read you the descriptions of them. I'm just gonna tell you the title and why I DNF'd them. That's really all we're gonna do with these. I literally did not put the pictures of the fucking covers, because that felt like way more work than I was willing to put into for these books that I didn't even like. So first you have Inclusion Uncomplicated. It is a book on diversity and inclusion. And I didn't like it for several reasons. First, if the book could just get over itself, frankly, and just be like, hey, this is a book for fucking CEOs and whatnot, I would understand, like, and I'd be like, fine, I guess, with the way that diversity was kind of treated as, and like it felt very slimy the way it was like diversity was treated as, how can diversity benefit me personally as someone who doesn't need diversity, kind of thing. It's like, yes, you could think it literally referred to thinking of diversity as, you know, betterment for human beings, equality, and focusing on it for that one. It referred to that as a burden. And so it tried to focus on why diversity lines your pockets, and that felt slimy. But if you had just gotten over it and just been like, this is for businesses, but no, she kept being like, this, every individual can use DEI in their personal lives. Everyone has something to learn from this, and this, so that made it feel really fucking gross and slimy. Also, it had this huge tendency to it make such a big deal out of cancel culture, but very much blew, and like it made it to a big deal that felt overblown, because the amount of time someone actually like does something wrong and is given zero chances to like make amends and grow as a person, that like that type of like cancel culture, that especially when you see it with regards to the way that a lot of fucking Republicans talk about it, and which is like felt like the way that she was describing it and referring to it, like that felt like it doesn't really happen as much, especially when, if we're going to these extremes of, well, someone does something wrong and they're immediately like burned to a crisp, versus the actual opposite end of the spectrum, which happens significantly more, is someone's just fucking racist. And that, so again, happens significantly more, and she kind of just blew it off as, if someone's actually racist and not willing to change, then all you can do is wish them your best and give them love, but not give them your time, or something like that. And so that, like, that false dichotomy really, or not false dichotomy, just the false narrative that was created by the way she was giving attention and talking about the frequency of these two issues really bothered me. There was also some other stuff, but I did write a review on Storygraph. I might have written one on Goodreads, I can't remember. But yeah, I got this. It was also like, why is this book, with the way it's being talked about on NetGalley? I got it on NetGalley. Why is this? I got it as a read now on NetGalley. This feels weird. This feels like you are handing it to the wrong audience. So Inclusion Uncomplicated, did not like that. Next, Island Secrets by Nina Fox? I don't remember. I'm bad with author names. I'm sorry. So Island Secrets was a story about a man died, like disappeared a year ago, presumed dead, but like not so much that the insurance company is willing to give her life insurance, kind of thing. And so but now she's getting attacked, and like there's a mystery going on, and there's a dead human involved, and there's a romance involved. My feelings on this book, I DNF'd it. I actually was super into the book for a while. It was a very interesting story. I liked it. My issue was there was this really gross line where the main character out of nowhere and for no reason dismisses sexual assault. She, like, her place gets robbed, and she says, I've never been assaulted by someone, but I imagine this is exactly what it feels like. And that just felt so gross and so unnecessary. I had to stop reading. I just couldn't get through with it. This was another arc that I got it from NetGalley. I think this was another read now arc. I stopped reading it, and then we're We moved on. I might pick it back up eventually, but at the moment I just have so many other things I'm far more interested in reading that than that line was just, ugh, I did not like it. The Ojibwe Dreamcatcher. I think it was just like a short story talking about some legends and lore in indigenous culture. I think Ojibwe is the actual tribe, possibly. I don't remember. The reason I stopped it was because it was an audiobook on Audible, and I did not like Kiki Palmer's narration. It like felt like she was whispering for some reason. It felt like in my head I couldn't stop feeling like, why is this woman in a closet trying to read this book while someone's like hunting her down in her house, and she's just whispering in that kind of way of, don't, like, we have to be talking, I have to tell you something important and something interesting, but don't let them hear you. I really could not get into it. So we stopped that. And then A Very Gay Book is just like this quirky it's this quirky joke book that's like, everything is gay, and then we'll talk about how the 7 days of creation are gay and how trees are gay, and it's like, it's a joke, it's a good time. It just was super white. There just got to a point where I was like, damn, is the melanin, like, can we get something in? And like, you gave so many white people entire full stories dedicated to them, and like some quirky cool story about them, and like, I guess anyone else gets like maybe a quick shout out in one of the stories. It just felt like it was a point of like, what, it really got to a point where it just felt like I wasn't a part of the fun no more. And so I like, it's genuinely just something I wouldn't like. I'm sure there are other options for something like this out there. At like, honestly, I would at this point kind of just recommend scrolling through TikTok before this book, because, you know, TikTok acknowledges people of color exist, at least sometimes. Moving on, short stories that I read. I read these 3 books. These are all in the same series, the Kingstown series by Sean. And so we have, this is not the wrong order. The first book is His Majesty, second book is Midnight, and third book is Yours. These are all erotica stories. I thought they were good stories. The men in these stories are not my type of men. But like, they were short, fun little romps. There's also a 4th book, Cravings, that came out recently, but I may get to that eventually. I have no money at the moment, so we don't know when that would be. And I did also find recently like a queer erotica author that I'm now obsessed with. So that's also gonna be a thing that I might lean a little more into, but. Overall, we are starting to get more into erotica in more ways than one. Spoiler alert. But, so yeah, that's, you will also just start seeing erotica pop up in some of my other wrap-ups. Next are the novels that I read. I read quite a few of them, if you couldn't tell. This is weird. Struggling here. So the novels that I read, in no particular order, because at this point there's no particular order. The People of Ostrich Mountain. Let me look up the description. This is a book that I read blended. I had the audiobook and the ebook. I had both of them as arcs. I also have another arc by this author, or not arcs, review copies, because this book came out a while ago. It came out, never mind, it came out in 2020. Yeah, it came out in 2020. So it was just a review copy. But the description: a saga of family and friendship. I forgot how poorly this describes the book. A saga of family and friendship spanning 5 decades and 3 continents. The people of Ostrich Mountain chronicles the interconnected lives of 3 outsiders as they navigate the vagaries of race, gender, and immigration. This is such a terrible description because realistically, the story is about one person, and that is Mama Mathoyu, Wambui. And so the story takes place over the colonization and freedom of Kenya. And so you see this girl Wambui, who is absolutely autistic. I love it. She's great. She's so fucking she's absolutely autistic. And her village gets colonized, and as the colonization starts to get super, super brutal, her family sends her to this new girls' school in another village. I believe it's a village still. That's a decent bit away. And so she goes to the school. She's extremely great at math. As she's away, studying start going even worse for her village. So she starts working during holidays since she wouldn't be able to afford to take a train back home and then to the school every holiday and every break. So she started staying back during breaks to work and bring money to her family. Then she eventually goes on to become a teacher at the school. She marries this dude whose family owns a hardware shop. It's a hardware shop. And then she eventually takes over the hardware shop. She and her husband have several kids, one of whom becomes a doctor and then travels to the United States to do doctory things. And also there's this white woman who is a teacher at the school who is hilarious. So I loved this book. I loved the writing, and I love Wambui as a character. But this is absolutely Wambui's story. It's such a stark difference the way you go from having so much detail and being like in a scene and in moments with Wambui to any other character where it feels like you're just being told some basics. You're just being given a summary of what's going on with them, but you don't really experience it with them, not nearly to the degree that you experience it with Wambui. Like, for instance, you have the son, Ray, who finds out that he's not, that, he finds out that there's something wrong with, I think, his visa. And so he's having trouble getting to the United States. Hi! Just breaking down some of the books that I read, starting with, or like at this point I'm at the novels that I read, and talking about how, like, the people of Ostrich Mountain describes itself as this, like, story of generations, but it's so not. Like, you have the main character, Wambui, who you are, like, the story feels like it is a part of her life, and then her son is struggling. They live in Kenya. He's struggling to get a visa so he can go and study and do his residency in medicine in the United States, and he's struggling to get his visa. And it feels like I'm giving a summary. Like, yeah, he has the emotions I feel like a person would have in that situation. Yeah, that makes sense. But I don't feel a lot of things he's talking about. Oh, I love murder mysteries. I admittedly have not read any, I can't think of any scary murder mysteries I've read. Like, I've read the, I've read some cozy mysteries. The Diana Flowers is one of my favorites. I've read, what else have I read? Sherlock Holmes. I've read a decent amount of those. I have the volumes somewhere. I think there are a couple short stories in iRobot that are murder mysteries. Ooh, cool. Yeah, I can dig a murder mystery. I think I'm going to be reading. I think I'm, like, feeling Sure. I think I might, in like the fall, whenever I get done with all these arcs that I have, I might end up reading some historical, but that's like 6 months from now, so we'll see if that's still the mood I'm in. But yeah, so the people of Ostrich Mountain, it just is not, none of the other characters are given the detail and the depth and the just they're not nearly as fleshed out as Wambui, and so it's really funny to see that the description of it is about all of these other characters. Also, the white woman in this book, I can't take her seriously, because again, this book is about the colonization of Kenya. This white woman comes in on the colonizer boat to put together a little Christian school, and then like decades later, she's like, I want, like, do these people look at me and think of me as some outsider taking their land and taking their homes? Ma'am. Please. You cannot just blatantly describe what you did, what you were literally a part of, and be upset that people might think of you as having been a part of the things that you did. That was your entire career while you lived there. What? She exhausts me. She exhausts me to no end. But again, the story is so very much about Wambui that like I didn't have to be bothered with her much for most of the book. The next novel, I think it's a novel. I think this one's like 230 pages. So I would consider that a novel, was The Night Masquerade by Nnedi Okorafor. What is the description of this book? It's been a year since Benti and Okwu enrolled in Ozuma University. A year since Benti was declared a hero for uniting two warring planets. A year since she found friendship in the unlikeliest places, and now she must return home to her people with her friend Okwu by her side to face her family and face her elders. But Okwu will be the first of his race to set foot on Earth in over 100 years, and the first ever to come in peace. After generations of conflict, can human and Meduse ever learn to truly live in harmony? This book, honestly, was like, I had so many just tears and breakdowns. This book had me extremely, extremely emotional. I, like, all over the place. Some stress, tears, anxiety. I think there was a lot going on, and I do really, really like how it ends. Is there a possibility that, like, it's not necessarily the most aggressive ending in the world? Is it a happy ending that maybe sometimes, like, maybe it would have also made sense for it to not be a happy ending, but also they did a good job of making the happy ending make sense, and I'm very satisfied with the way that it ends. There's Okwu, who is the alien that she meets on the ship in the very first book, and Mwini, who is from her father's original tribes, and like that whole crew, and the way those two interact. I want a buddy series of just them hanging out, throwing barbs at each other. They're so funny. They're so hilarious, and I love it. Also, the fact that, and this is technically a spoiler, but the fact that this entire, Benti has been going through hell for the past 2 books, for Home and The Night Masquerade. Benti is going through hell, and it's literally all for a Yelp review. I physically can't. It kills me. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. Completely out of left field. No idea where that came from, but I love it nevertheless. Next up is Dusk by Bo Van Dalen. Where is that book? This was the last book that I read in the quarter. It was the book that I read for the Transrise Readathon. So, in the daylight, Indigo is the perfect daughter. In the shadows, he is a master of forbidden alchemy. Set in a fantasy world on the grounds of a magic school, a trans warlock fights against a dystopian society with the help of his friends. If you are interested in a book where shit hits every single fan. Like, at the very beginning, this book is going to be great. This book had me under a constant state of stress and anxiety from the very beginning. And it pretty much just stayed there. I thought it was really well written. I was so concerned. I had so much anxiety reading this book. It had, like, I loved the characters. I loved Indigo so much. And, like, this book was not subtle about the fact that being trans in this world was, like, very much, someone finds out you're dead. And as well, does the character make me exclaim, "What are you doing?" It's not that it's like I can't believe what this person is doing. It's not like they're doing reckless things, but it's also in a world where literally, like, everyone's gonna die. It feels like everyone is going to die. Someone is going to kill you. There is a character in it. Her name is Faye, who she is, like, because there's also warlocks and humans, right, warring in this world. And she is a breed. She is a child of a warlock and a human, and that's not legal. And she is out hunting for her warlock mother, and she's so impulsive about it, and she's so naive about it that I'm just sitting here like, baby, please just keep it to yourself for right now. You are going to get killed. So she has me like, oh my god, why are you, like, you don't need to tell nobody right now. You do not need to be this like, you can chill for 2 seconds. But yeah, Indigo, like, the things Indigo's doing make sense. They, like, the things he does make so much sense. It's just so much of, like, if there's so many people after him right now, and if just one mistake, he's doing everything he needs to be doing. He's working to make sure he keeps his identity under wraps, but, like, one mistake and he's dead. And I'm this book is not, like, is not going to hold back from murdering him or like putting him through hell. So I'm just stressed. I'm so stressed and so worried for his life. There's so many people just trying to hunt him down, and there's so much anxiety. I'm just stressed thinking about it. It is interesting that at the end of the book, it ends in a way that is very much like, oh, there's definitely going to be a sequel. No idea what they're going to do. Like, I feel like I would be being brought into a completely new sphere of storytelling when we get to the second book, because it feels like so much has changed that we're starting over. They have to figure out life from square one again. They have to figure out how they're going to exist and not be, hunted down, murdered, the usual. They're like at square one, maybe square -1. I don't know, but it feels like they're like I can tell the characters are going to do something and they have big plans, but I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what we're going to be doing in this book. I'm ready. I'm not ready for it. I'm interested in it. I'm excited for it, but it's going to be news to me. It's going to be a surprise to me what this next plot is going to be, because they absolutely want, like, there's nothing is the same. Like, we're basically all in a completely different setting. We're all completely, like, it started off, book 1 was in a school. The teachers at the school are dying. The politics is all falling apart in the world. It's so completely different that I feel like I have to mentally change what I'm expecting of this book, because it's just not going to be anything like book 1. And I am excited for that, though. I am excited for that. I'm stressed. I'm so stressed. I will be so stressed. I will have some anxiety meds when I read book 2, because it's gonna be rough. It's gonna hurt me. Next, I read what is this called? The Infinity Trap. The Forever Trap. Close enough. Which is a Doctor Who story. I have this like massive audiobook of, it's like 15 hours of audiobooks with 10 stories. This one was narrated by Catherine Tate. Some of them are narrated by David Tennant, and there is another person, Monique something, I believe, who narrates some of the other stories in that collection. The description: Catherine Tate reads this exclusive, thrilling story in which the Doctor and Donna are imprisoned on the edifice and become neighbors to a terrifying assortment of aliens. When the TARDIS is invaded by a holographic marketing scam, the Doctor and Donna find themselves trapped on the edifice, a purpose-built complex of luxury apartments in space. Their new environs leave much to be desired. Millions of beings from across the universe have been gathered to live side by side in similar apartments. Instead of creating neighborly affection, it's led to terrible battles being waged in the corridors and on the stairwells. The Doctor and Donna must cross the paths of deadly alien mobs as they search for the edifice's ultimate authority. Who or what lies at the heart of the incredible complex? What destructive scourge is eating away at the edifice itself? And are the Doctor and Donna trapped forever on this living hell? Everyone is dying. Also, I'm excited. Yes. We love stress. We love when stuff's happening. Everyone's dying, and you know it sucks. I know. I have not seen, I don't know if something happens, because I haven't seen, I honestly haven't even finished the Jodie Whittaker episodes yet. There was a pause during some of them towards the final chunks of them, so I haven't finished all of those. So I have no idea if in that section where David and Donna come back, if something happens there, and that would make me sad. Because Donna was absolutely one of my favorite companions. I really did love her Catherine Tate reading this audiobook, and obviously her Donna Noble is fantastic, but her David Tennant's also really funny. Oh, I do too. Jodie is up there as one of my favorite doctors. I think Tennant, Whittaker, and Capaldi are some of my favorite doctors. This story, so I actually made a mistake when I decided to read this story, because I've mentioned this before. I am quite to the chicken. I do not like scary things, and for some reason I forgot that there's a solid chunk of scariness in Doctor Who. And so there was just one day where I was having a really bad headache, and so I wanted to just turn off all the lights and just put an audiobook in to like blare out every other noise in the house, and then just lay under a blanket and just chill like that for a little bit. And then this book started, and oh my god. Hi, welcome. We're talking about The Forever Trap, a Doctor Who story, which I'm gonna be honest, I was not prepared for it to be as terrifying as it was. It's so creepy, and like I'm a chicken. I am quite the chicken when it comes to scary stories. Fun fact, I have not watched Jurassic Park, actually, because the opening scene, granted, it was a hot minute ago, but I've also not made any further attempts at watching Jurassic Park. But like the opening scene of Jurassic Park was just so stressful, so scary. I couldn't get through it. So we just shut it down, changed the movie. I really do like them. I have a decent amount of them. I have this like chunk of the 10th Doctor tales. I also have there was one that came out that an author I really like. I believe she's the author that wrote Ace of Spades, wrote some stories for a collection that's on the different companions. And so that was also one that I picked up. And a lot of them, depending on where you get them, you can get just like a massive collection of a bunch of these different short stories in like a 15-20 hour collection. So I'm a big fan of them. But yeah, this one's definitely freaked me out, because it's a full production. They have audio effects, they have creepy music. They like it's a full production, this story, and so was definitely stressed. Definitely couldn't get to sleep that night. I think a lot about the edifice and how they described it, because it's this building is like it's supposed to be like folded, like space and reality folded in on itself. Like if you've seen that painting where you have like the stairs that go in all directions, it's supposed to be like existing in that. They're so good. I really do like them. But yeah, the hotel is like space and reality folded in on itself, and so them trying to get around from place to place is affected by that, especially Donna. And there's also some of that like natural Tin and Donna like best friend ultra care, and like him trying to take care of her while she's freaking out about the way reality is tripping up in her mind. It was freaky, because there's also something about the way they are verbally describing like some of the sounds of something like stepping into the room while they're trying to hide, especially when you're dealing with like aliens and stuff like that. They're describing textures and sounds and smells, and it's there's so much that is added to it, and it's with the audiobook, it's like right in my ear. So like if this monster is breathing in their ear, it's breathing in my ear, and it's I should not have read this in the dark is what I'm trying to say. I should have absolutely, because I think I read it it was like a 2-hour story. So I read it in 2 different days, and day 1 we made the mistake, and day 2 we read it in the middle of the day just because I didn't want to not finish it. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was definitely like as creative as pretty much all Doctor Who stories are, and it felt like an episode of Doctor Who. They even played the theme song, and I think it's actually, because it's 2 hours long, it's read and timed out like it is 2 episodes, so a part 1 and a part 2, and it even plays the theme song and intro and outro music for both parts. I love it. I'm a fan. I'm a very big fan. Next, Chaos by Sydney Damon. The description here. Let me get a little water. I have not read any of the Peter Capaldi ones, and I definitely should, especially if they're narrated by him, because I think all of the Doctor Who books are only audiobooks. I don't think they have any like ebook or print editions, even though I do have packed away. I have the Krillitane Storm, which is an actual like physical book, but I find it's been really hard to find Doctor Who books as like an ebook, or maybe there are more print books, but I can't find them as ebooks really. But maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places too. Chaos. All things are not as they seem. After nearly everyone with special abilities abandoned the world, Hallenwood is one of the few cities to remain standing. Cade Reed has been doing his best to survive the city and raise his younger siblings. When Cade is murdered, his 4 students must decide whether to let the world burn or to fight to keep hope alive. Elsie Hallen is an angry loner who has to deal with more scars than most. Henry Adamson is an addict trying desperately to keep his monsters buried. Charlotte Marion is a determined athlete tired of living in a world running on fear and despair. Wesley Reed is just trying to raise his younger sister and build a future for himself while mourning the loss of his brother. As they come together, they start to recognize there may be more to all the darkness and desperation haunting the city. Uncovering secrets involving evil cults and the ancient mythology behind their special abilities, they find themselves faced with an enemy hell-bent on their destruction. Another 5-star book. I think, yeah, Training School for Negro Girls is the only non-5-star book. Chaos, I really liked this one. This was a book where placing what the writing style was probably the biggest struggle I had, because I haven't read a book. Literary is the best way to describe the writing style of this book, and I haven't read a literary book in so long that I genuinely just was not able to place it. But once I that's what we're doing, that's what's going on, then my brain was able to shift into the right places to really to be able to enjoy and not cherish is a dramatic word, but really appreciate, that's the word, the writing of the story, because it does have that really lyrical and poetic style. It lingers on descriptions of the places and the people more than your average contemporary or modern style book would. And it once you prepare for that, I'm a really big fan of this book. The characters were extremely well done. Wesley is one of those very tunnel visioned sciencey kids that to a point started getting on my nerves. And if one person could slap him real quick, we'd be fine. We'd be fine. He eventually learns his lesson. He eventually gets called out on some of his bullshit. But also, there's also some bully characters in the story that I know Sydney is going to absolutely, these are actually the best guys. These guys have actually been trying to get to the bottom of Kate's murder too, and they're undercover. They're in deep trying to figure out what happened to Kate and save other people. I'm sure, the first book, they're just assholes. But I am positive that that not all is not as it seems. I'm sure they're gonna turn out to be good guys. But again, if just really quick, one right hook, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be fine. I feel like I need more than an apology to experience the retribution needed for us to move forward as this for the story. Okay. The characters in the main group, Elsie, Wesley, Henry, and Charlotte, are all a very interesting balance of characters. Wesley and Henry are my favorite. Not Wesley. Not Wesley. He, again, just Elsie and Henry are my favorite. Elsie is this, again, she's a loner. She's angry. She's full of rage, but we vibe with it. We're down. I said there was because I this author's one of my best friends. I was on Twitter and someone was like, what would happen if your main character met the main character of whatever book you're reading? And I was like, oh, if Dallas Ryder and Elsie met, there would be hell. It would be hell on earth for everyone around them, because they Dallas and Ethan would be just trying to piss her off, and then Elsie would cuss them out, and Dallas would be like, oh, actually what we're not gonna do is give me attitude. And it would be 0 to 100 real quick, and then one of them's gonna catch the other one crying, and then they're gonna be best friends, and then they're gonna make it hell on earth for everyone else, but intentionally now. And I think that's a great a great scenario for them too, because Elsie does not like to bond with people. She's been through hell. She's been so bullied, and that's really had an impact on the way she's able to see herself. She sees herself as a monster because this is what so many people kind of describe her as, because she has a bunch of scars all over her body, as well as some absolute trash propaganda put out by her father, that the fact that no one's picking up its propaganda. Guys, Henry is a jackass, and that's just my type. That's my favorite type of character, is the jackass, and I feel like we need more of this grumpy jackass dynamic that Elsie and Henry have, because it's absolutely fantastic. It's so funny. I love him, and I love seeing them interact. And I also, the story, there is the story of what happened to Cade, who killed him, but there's also a lot of other mysteries and a lot of other lore that you're piecing together as you read the book. So, because it's also, this is a bigger thing going on in the city. Elsie is already looking into it. It is a bigger group doing almost ritual killings kind of thing. So what's going on there? What is this kind of cult, and why are they like hunting down these people? And then you also have the mystery of what's going on, like where are all these like super powered beings coming from? And then you have the mystery of like, obviously it's a dystopian society, so you have major wealth gaps. What's the suspicious stuff the wealthy are doing? Because they're up to, like, you know, they're up to something, and especially because Elsie is the daughter of the people who basically own the city. You can see some of the sus things that her parents are doing, and we want answers. I'm so excited to get book 2 whenever that comes out, because I really want to know what's happening. I want to know what's going on. I want to know where all these things are piecing together, and the cliffhanger at the end of book 1, like, I need to know what's going on. I need answers. I need an explanation. I need like at least the next 40 pages just so I can see how that scene ends. That's the kind of cliffhanger it is. Next up, the training school for Negro girls. This book also gave me a lot of stress, but in a completely different way. As unapologetic and resilient as the DC neighborhoods they live in, these women challenge monolithic assumptions of Black identity. A TSA agent who has never flown, a girl braving new worlds to play piano, a teacher caught up in a mayoral race. In this debut collection of stories, each of them navigates life's training schools with its lesson on gentrification and respectability while fighting to create a vibrant sense of self in this love letter to Washington, D.C. So, I'm not gonna lie, the biggest stressor of this book is that I don't know if people got it. Like, there's particularly one quote that is like the most highlighted quotes, and I damn near turned off like see popular highlights on my Kindle because like it was such a deeply bigoted sentiment. Like, the sentiment is, there's this girl who, like, there's a teacher at this school who has been giving nothing but shit to this girl who comes from the poorer side of town. And she's like, everything this teacher says is so deeply bigoted, is so upsetting, to the point of like, one of the things that pisses me off the most is they're talking about this mayoral race, and her students, she's trying to convince her students and use them to manipulate their parents into voting for this white lady when everyone wants Barry as the mayor, who is a Black man, but she, you know, has that stigma against drug abuse, which is also great. But she asks her kids, why would anyone vote for Barry, yada, yada, yada. And one of the kids, specifically the girl that she gives so much shit to and says is like, no hope. There's no hope for her. All of that. This girl gets up and is like, well, I think we should vote for Barry because he created summer jobs programs that led to less shootings in our neighborhoods. And the teacher's like, these kids know nothing. They just want to vote for him because he's Black. And I'm like, no, they literally gave you a reason. And so this kid, there's at some point where she and a new girl, are you messing the box? You're messing the box. But like she and this new girl are out in the playground. They come back, both of them are crying. The new girl has a cut on her leg. And the teacher drags the student that she's been shitting on, drags her to the principal's office, and is like, she kicked her. And the principal's like, well, we can't do anything if no one saw what happened. Oh, I was so mad this entire book. In my, like, literally in my review, I'm just sitting here like, these are some of the cooniest coons I've ever seen in my life. This is truly... So, like, the training school is a simulation. This training school of the book is a simulation, and showing how you have these young girls who go from being, like fighting and struggling against some of the oppression that they receive in the world, to being people who participate in it and try and like find their own sense of power over someone else in their lives. And there's literally a transition of this girl writing the worst college essay I've ever seen in my life, where it's like the short story is called Final Draft of a College Essay, and she's literally just bitching about some friends of hers, whilst also being like, I'm not like other black girls. I don't listen to hip hop unless it's Macklemore. And the number of people who are like, I just saw myself in this story. I'm like, you're the bad guy then. You're the problem. It's so upsetting. So, like, this teacher, when she goes to the principal and is like, this girl kicked her. And the principal is like, oh, well, we don't see anything. If no one saw anything, then we can give her a warning. We can't give her any actual punishment. And the teacher was like, teacher lied and said, no, I saw her kick the other girl. And principal's like, well, I guess we have to remove her from the school because she was in a program to move her from this poor neighborhood to go to a school in this upper class area. And the teacher lied and was like, no, I saw her. And principal's like, I guess we remove her from the school. And the most highlighted line was, like, sometimes you can't give everyone your effort. Sometimes you can't save everyone if they're not putting in the effort, or like something to that degree of, you can't keep putting in effort to everyone. Not everyone's gonna succeed. And it's like, literally from the get-go, every single thing this teacher has said about this girl has been deeply rooted in racism and stereotypes, to the point where this teacher was like, some boys were playing in the fucking playground and they're like, I shot you, I got you. And the teacher's like, gang banging from an early age, you can't get the ghetto out of them. That is such a deeply bigoted thing to say, because those are games any kid would play. Like, Cops and Robbers is a game any kid would fucking play. Fucking the white kids are always playing the fucking Cowboys and Indians. Like, these are games that have existed for ages that every kid would play. But when you associate black kids playing that game to gangbanging, that is racism. And it's so unnerving that it seems like so many people did not get that was the problem. And I was just so stressed. I get so much stress. Oh, I hated reading these books. Like, it was a good book, but also I hated these characters so much. I was literally just cussing. I have notes I took on this book, and I was just cussing the entire time. I was so upset at the people in this book, and I was so uncomfortable with the fact that so many people were, like, trying to relate themselves to these characters. It was stressful. I'm so concerned. Because, like, one of the biggest comments I saw was that it felt like the author was just like, oh, black girls have fun, and then when you're an adult, you're bitter and annoying. And it's like, no, we're just specifically talking about assimilation, specifically talking about respectability politics. That is the story that we're going into. We're seeing how this stuff trains. It was so bad. The reviews under this book have me just knocked a couple extra edges off of my faith in humanity, honestly. But the story we're talking specifically is how those respectability politics, assimilation, racism, microaggressions, all of that stuff chip away and like aggress and shape the black women that are forced to participate in it in order to have an existence. Like, again, and how when you're desperate to have some sort of power because you've had no power in any other facet of your life, how you turn that on other people and then become another wheel of the system. It was, the reviews of this book hurt me. They hurt me deeply. but the stories themselves were written really well. My favorite was, I think it was the second story about the pianist, the girl who's doing the piano recital. There was a white girl picking on her, like laughing at her hair. It was a competition, and so the girl was like, you could never win, you could never do that good. And then the fucking white girl got second place, and she's like, it's not a competition anyway. And then our main character started throwing roach shells at her. I'm like, yes, get her ass, get her ass. So satisfying. And then the last novel that I read in quarter one was Revenant Prince by T. Hernandez. It is the sequel in the Curse of Shafhala series. Tethered Spirits is book one, and it was truly one of like my favorite books of all time, and book two did not disappoint. So they survived but lost one of their own. With Amar now under the enemy's control, his loyal friends would stop at nothing to rescue him. To succeed, they must fight inner battles more daunting than even the harshest external challenges. New alliances are forged as former adversaries work toward a common goal, but with Kavora on the brink of war, Kasari, Aleda, and the others face mounting pressure to prevent the conflict. Very soon, it may be too late. A prince returns to claim his throne. 17 years after Prince Sevir's supposed death, an unlikely mentor guides him home to take back his crown. With the evidence clearly laid before them, several of Kavora's most powerful leaders acknowledge his return and support his claim. But convincing the Empress to step down will be a much bigger challenge. Before long, Sevir is swept up in a complex game of political maneuverings, eager to be more than just a piece on the board. The stakes are high, not only for him, but for the entire empire. To further complicate matters, he can't shake the feeling that something is amiss. If only he could remember what. So a really, really cool thing that this series does is you have our character Amar, who, when he dies, he's immortal, but he does die. He just revives. But when he revives, he has no memories. And that is such a cool mechanic that you see them work through in book one. And so seeing that continue in book two is super, super, super cool. You have this main villain who is like one of the biggest, baddest. Taraj is the word for like the type of sorcery that they do in this world. She's one of the biggest and baddest of them all. And she has died a while ago. And when a Taraj dies, they can bond with a human to share their lifespan so they can exist and continue existing as a spiritual companion, and the human gets to now use their power, but they lose half of their lifespan. And so she bonded with someone, but then separate herself to bond with Amar. And this book is really, really good at the discussions she has with Amar to make him feel important, to make him feel like she cares. And you're sitting there, the number of times I had to catch myself and be like, oh, that's so sweet. Wait, no, she's the bad guy. Wait, no, she's lying to him. She is going to get him killed again. It's like the writing between them was so good that it genuinely, for a while, had me, until he starts picking up on the fact that things are right, I would constantly also be feeling the sympathy, empathy, and love that he feels with her. And the story was really, really good at creating that bond between them. You also have truly my favorite part of the book. So the author really, before the release of the book, because I got this as an ARC, because I got the first book as an ARC, and I have been fangirling over it since it came out. So I got the ARC of this book too. And the author, before it released, really pushed the fact that you do have this couple, Matul, who was basically a brother to Amar and is now trying to figure out what he's going to do to try and bring his brother back. You have Matul and his ex, who he left because he didn't want his ex. Do I remember his name? I don't remember if I remember his name. Kamal. Kamal, Matul left Kamal because he didn't want Kamal to give up his dreams of being an artist, so that way he can run around with Matul and Amar trying to figure out, Come here, Hazel. Oh, here he is. Oh, he is the baby's baby. This is Chestnut, my baby chunk. He is so cute. He's a very scary baby. You good? Hi. He's super cute. He's super stressed. He's a very easily stressed and spooked kitty. But he's also absolutely the babiest baby and loves his cuddles when he's ready. But yeah, so years prior to the events of even book 1, Matul and Kamal break up. So, and Matul and Amar. All of the kisses for these babies. He's such a cutie. They break up, and now as Matul's trying to help get back Amar and whatnot, they run back into each other, and Kamal helps him because he is a famous artist now, and he's able to have access to people that Matul, as kind of a traveler, would not have access to. And she puts a lot of emphasis on that relationship, and that relationship, don't get me wrong, is absolutely adorable. They're so sweet. I love them so much. But there's this other character, Aleda, who is the one that had originally been bonded to the evil Taraj, and she is on this path. She, in the process of being separated from Valkyrie, is the name of the evil Taraj. In the process of being separated, it nearly killed her and left her disabled. Hold on a second. It left her disabled. She used to also be an artist, but she's lost a lot of the fine motor skills in her hands, and Valkyrie also had manipulated her a lot through their time together, and in the process, Aleda was just trying to do all of this so she can try and save her sickly brother's life, but in the process he ended up dying, and she didn't get to spend much time with him while he was still alive. And now she's livid and wants revenge. So she is going through grief and anger and so many other emotions with regards to this whole process. And you just have Matul, who is this sweet bard, just taking care of her. And then you have Kamal, who was her hero as an artist. Also, the way those two basically adopt her, and the platonic love that you get with all three of them, it is actively a caring relationship between all three of them, as opposed to just kind of having her on the sidelines watching them fall in love. She's actively a part of that family, and I was distraught. I was shattered as a human being. Because here's the thing. So the reason I loved Tether Spirits was because the PTSD that Kasari, one of our other characters, has was so amazingly written, and I felt so connected to it. And I just went into this book this author can't do that twice. This author could not do that twice in the same series. And nope, absolutely, the way I apparently desperately needed to see a strong platonic love between a group of people, even if the two were in their own relationship, but also still the way that they made her so included and made her a part of that family. I was in shambles. I was not okay. I spent pretty much the entire second half of the book crying, and I'm at this point prepared enough. I'm mentally prepared enough that that's probably going to be what happens in book 3 too. I can handle it, and I'm ready. I'm waiting in the sidelines, stalking this author's Twitter and Instagram and TikTok until I get news that book 3 is out, and that is I'm okay with this. I'm okay with being here waiting for this book, because it was, again, it's such an amazing book. I scream about this series as much as I can, because this is an indie author, and we love supporting other indie authors, and this is, again, just, it's such a good book. It's such a good book. I love it. I know I saw Jesse talking about it, especially like the friendship breakup and like the friendship betrayal aspects of Babel, and I really want to read it. I would probably, like, my primary way of accessing it would be the library, and I know that's going to be months. That's going to be like such a long wait to get that book, and especially because I feel like I might want to do that as a blended read, and I'm probably not going to be able to get a blended read, like get the audiobook and ebook of that at the same time from the library. But I do definitely want to read Babel even more, knowing that that is a major aspect of it, and I expect that to fully destroy me as well. I didn't read it because there was because of the spoilers, but I'm probably, once I read it, I'm probably just gonna search the Discord and see everyone complaining about these fucking characters. Oh my god. Also, I don't know if you saw, that reminds me, someone, I think it was on Twitter, like, messaged RF Kwong and was like, you sound kind of anti-colonialist. Like, the way you're coming off, it's kind of anti-colonialist. And someone was like, how do you ask the author of Babel if they're anti-colonialist? Good times. We have good times. But yeah, I know that is definitely a highly anticipated read that I know will leave me in an absolute wreck. But we love that. I don't mind a good cry. It's so relieving. It's a release, you know? But yeah, that is all of the books that I read in the first quarter of the year. We got a good thing going. We got a good thing down. I did not read anything for my 5-star book draft, which is basically just books that I predict are going to be 5 stars, only rules being no rereads and nothing that's a sequel in a series, which is exclusively the reason why Revenant Prince was not on that list, and Chaos was also a reread. But yeah, I didn't end up reading any fully anti-colonialist. Oh my god, it was wild. Like, I haven't read the book, and I am so fully aware that this author is completely anti-colonialist. It's hilarious. But yeah, I have even more books coming up for this next quarter. I've read a solid handful. I've read a decent amount more short stories, and I've actually gotten to some of the books on my 5-star book draft. Yeah, I just didn't end up picking them up in the first quarter, I guess. A lot of them, my book draft list is completely different than when I streamed and was talking about it last time, because I've gotten so many arcs, and a lot of those are on, like, I didn't put them on the list because I figured I wouldn't get them anytime soon, but now I have them, and of course I'm like, yeah, I absolutely think The Phoenix King, I somehow got an arc for that. Absolutely think that's going to be a 5-star read. So we don't have any percentages or, like, maths on that so far, but we will have 5-star drafts stuff coming up in this next quarter, because again, like, half of the arcs I've read are on that list. Yeah, I did see your story about the Chinese shoes. I'm just so tired. Existing is so exhausting these days. Oh my god. It's like you sometimes forget when you get into like a good space when you're around. Like, I don't really talk to people much, so when I'm just primarily hanging around like the people on Twitter, the Discord, and like the specific area I primarily chill out in, it's easy to just forget how bad it is out there. There was a person I work with who was being transphobic. They're like, they would consider themselves more of a gender critical, but like also describing being trans as a mental health thing. And they're talking about, oh, it's science, this science, that. But in the next breath, they're like, I've stayed up every daylight savings time. I stay up all night to see if I can see where the hour goes. And I'm just so tired of having to acknowledge them. You know, not everyone needs to be heard. And I don't want to. I don't want to leave my house anymore. If I could not have to leave my house, that'd be... Why? Why would they... See, why would you not just ask the question, what is your name? Right? Like, why would you not just ask, why do you feel the need to be able to guess instead... I'm so tired. I'm so tired. But yeah, that is all I have for the wrap up today. Up next, hopefully next week, but life is going to be so hectic super soon. But hopefully next week I will get back to streams and to like the review streams, starting with the Luis Ortega Survival Club, which absolutely fantastic, but cannot wait to talk about that. But yeah, that is all that I have for me. Thank you so much for stopping by. I also am very excited to see the list of recommendations you have for me for books. I'm trying to get into some more creepy and scary books, but also, you know, we gotta dive into it. Especially because so many of them sound so good. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks. I'm glad you came. I'm glad you got to come by and see me live. But that's about it for this one. Thank you so much, and until next time, Violations, friends.